What's up, guys? Today is the best day because it's leg day. What's up, guys? Today is the best day because it's leg day. I'm going to tell you all about it right after you do the YouTube thing. Like, subscribe, tell some friends, keep helping the channel grow. Get down in that comment section, get rowdy, talk about muscles and legs and anything you need validated for. This is the place to get validation. Social media, comment section, the way to go. But anyway, appreciate you guys. You guys are great. So today, the reason we're filming is because it's a new split, the start of a new day, the start of a new era. This will be the beginning of the prep that leads to Terrence being Mr. Olympia 2022. So we're going through the whole split. If you guys didn't already, look here. My man Trevor is going to link our, what do we have, a pool day? I think we had a pool day. So we're going to link the first day of the new split, which is a pool day. The next one we're going to have here is going to be this day, which is a leg day. Going to go through some of the differences, some of the things that are the same, talk through goals again as far as what we want to accomplish this off season. So as far as legs go, we really don't need a whole lot of change. I would say the most important thing, we still want hamstrings a little bit bigger, because when you have quads and adductors like Terrence, you have a back like Terrence, hamstrings can never be too big. It's just realistically, it's never going to happen. So that's one of those body parts. If you guys are at home and you're like kind of ever looking at like, what can I actually improve? It's literally probably never been said in the history of bodybuilding, oh, his hamstrings are too big. You can have other stuff that's shit, but hamstrings can definitely never be too big. You know, so in all the rear shots, if the bigger they are, the more it's going to show definition. All the side shots, we just want hang. We just want, basically, it feels like Terrence's hamstring is just resting on his calf. So as far as exercise selection goes, we're keeping hamstrings a priority. You'll see we're doing a little bit of different activation stuff in the beginning. So you'll see parts of, I always do some torso stuff, normally do some hip stuff. I'm doing a little bit more ankle stuff this go around. Another way to get a little bit more calf work in without actually training the calves. So you're going to see a motion, I call them calf bridges. I coined that. I don't know if I made up that exercise. I'm going to say I made up that exercise just because it's so stupid that no one else would want to claim it. But basically, I think it has a great purpose for just getting a good, strong contraction and a good feel for getting your calves in fully shortened position. So you'll see when I put a band across my ankle, fully contract, fully shorten that gastroc. Just a great one, again, to get that ankle in that position, get that muscle in the position, and then superset that with basically an anterior tib raise, just using the band as well, too. So again, both those exercises, even on themselves, if your goal was to grow muscle, they're complete shit. You'll never grow calves that way. You won't even grow anterior tibs that way. But they're a great way to take your ankle through full range of motion, dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, which I think is, one, it's a good time to do it because that will carry over, in my opinion, to improve calf training on the other 2 days we actually train calves, and it will improve ankle mobility for training lower body today, which is a particularly important for squat patterns, leg press patterns, lunge or split squat patterns. So that's the main reason I'm incorporating in there, just one more day of getting the ankles moving, getting the calves to the full range of motion, and prep for when we're doing our squat patterns. And then on top of that, you'll see breathing, bracing, hip stuff as well, too. So, you know, calves are our goal as well, too. So we are incorporating a little bit more this offseason. But the reality is, as much as Terrence and I both want him to have big calves just because big calves are awesome and we want a perfectly balanced physique, judges don't give a shit about calves. And I'm not saying that from my opinion. I'm saying that as a matter of fact. There have been several people to win several different Mr. Olympias in many different categories with complete shit calves. So the reality is Terrence is doing this to win shows, and secondarily doing it to have a perfectly balanced physique. So we're going to train calves, but the reality is we're never going to really prioritize him because it's not going to have him winning any more titles, more so than other body parts. Aside from that, not changing a whole lot. So we're starting with seated leg curls, still my absolute favorite exercise for hamstrings, just because I think it's the place where you can have the most intramuscular force from the hamstrings with the least amount of stabilization possible. So you don't have to stabilize your torso, stabilize your pelvis. Again, RDLs and stuff, glute ham raises can be great, especially for beginner to intermediate, even advanced. They get to a point where you need so much force to get your hamstrings to grow. You don't want other stuff to be the limiting factor. So that's why we do those, as opposed to RDLs, as opposed to maybe a 45-degree back extension, as opposed to maybe a glute ham raise. Again, all those exercises are great. And also, Terrence always has a little bit of hip pelvis issues that translate into back issues. So RDLs really don't pay off for him as a movement to keep in as well either. And again, his hams grow plenty well from curls, and his glutes grow plenty big from squat and lunge patterns. So started with the seated leg curls. Everything we're starting with now is basically 2 working sets across the board, taking things pretty much right to failure. So that was first, just straight sets there, keeping that a priority. And again, you'll see going just to failure on those, kind of setting our baseline for where we're going to progress up for this off season. From there, right into banded hacks. I've said that before. A good pendulum squat and banded hacks are pretty much interchangeable, and we rotate those just kind of based on how they feel. They've both been feeling good for Terrence. We did a lot of pendulum squats this last season, and then we tried to switch to hacks for a little bit then, and he said the hacks actually felt a little bit better, where sometimes it's been the other way around. So some people ask why we swap those, solely by feel. They're so close as far as quality of exercise and what the goal is of each, that again, they're pretty much interchangeable. So working sets on hacks there, banded hacks. Again, if you're new here, the bands just allow you to make it heavier at the top compared to the bottom. And if you're new here, it's going to make your head hurt because you're saying, well, doesn't the bands make it lighter? You'll see the bands are completely slack at the top and stretched at the bottom, which means whatever weight is on the sled is what you're lifting at the top, and then you're deloading it as you come to the bottom. So all I care about is a lighter number at the bottom and a heavier number at the top. Whether you put bands from the top properly or from the bottom properly, it accomplishes the same goal. And again, someone hearing that for the first time might think that's incorrect or makes your head hurt, but just work it out, and trust me, I'm right. Basically, go by which is easier to set up. So it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. You have to put more plates on this way, but it's a quicker setup with the bands. But either way is fine. And I think it's a more efficient movement, gives more challenge to the quads through the entire range of motion, where typically a squat pattern is too easy at the top, or at least not as efficient at the top. So working sets there, setting the baseline, same thing, we'll work up on that one. Goals of those, so the first exercise trains the hamstrings so they're fully lengthened through their mid-range, which is where I think you have the highest force production. The squat pattern is training your quads, particularly through the fully lengthened through the mid-range, again, where you have the highest force production. Those are really kind of the hallmark of what makes a meat and potato exercise, something you really want to logbook and progress, and we'll be able to progress for long periods of time. And then we superset lying leg curls to leg extensions. So we've kept lying leg curls in a long time because between seated and lying, you're training your hamstrings to their full contractile range. So lying leg curl, the difference between that and seated, the reason we do that second is there's a little bit more stabilization involved in the pelvis and the lower back. So I like to do that after we've done squat patterns. But then also that will train the hamstrings to their fully shortened position. So pairing those will get the hamstrings trained to their full contractile range. And supersetting that with leg extensions. The main reason we're incorporating leg extensions now is because Terrence wants to, and I want Terrence to be able to contract his quads better in that fully shortened position. We didn't do a lot of those at all the offseason, and it actually affected Terrence's posing a little bit. He wasn't feeling as comfortable fully contracting his quads when fully extending the knee. So you'll see when none of those are working sets really, just doing sets of 5, 2 or 3 working-ish sets of 5-second holds at the top, really focusing on that contraction. And we'll see if we taper those up or not. We might just keep them in that way, keeping them short of failure, just working on that position, getting good control at that position, good contractions there. But it's also still a good exercise. And if you really want to work on your quads, I recommend including a squat pattern and a leg extension so you train for the fully shortened position. People are going to say, do you need that? I say the better connected you are to a body part, the less important it is to train them in their fully shortened position more often. So listen to that back again. So people will say, again, for any body part, that's why people can grow huge chests doing just presses, why people can grow huge legs doing just squatting patterns. You don't need to train that fully shortened position, but I think it's good to do sometimes. And again, also, the worst connection you have with a body part, I think merits training that position more, because there is something to this mind-muscle connection thing. It's definitely not the end-all be-all. It's definitely not the most important thing, but to feel a muscle you're training, at least to some degree, is important. And that's something unique to training a muscle in a fully shortened, fully contracted position. There's a unique contraction, hard contraction, crampy feeling there. So supersetting those. And again, we'll see if we ever take those working or not. Terrence has huge adductors, so it is nice to keep those in sometimes, just so we're doing a movement that fatigues only the quads, whereas any squat pattern, any lunge pattern, Terrence's adductors and glutes do a lot of work. So just something to be aware of there too. And as you'll see, I'm outside. I've got this rack here. If you guys have your own gym or train at a gym where you have any influence over the exercise or the equipment selection, I highly recommend getting a squat rack like this, a nice cheap one, freestanding one. If for no other reason, it's so nice for walking lunges because you can set it up somewhere, you can put a shit ton of weight on your back, and you can walk it in and out, and you're not limited by what you can overhead press onto your back. So it's just really nice. And in Florida now, we're coming into lunge weather season. I don't really care about any other thing for weather, but this is beautiful weather for lunging outside. So the things you'll see, same with the leg extension, same with the lunges. Anytime I introduce a new movement, we never go to failure. So people ask, oh, do you always train to failure? Well, it depends on the individual. So beginners and intermediates very often no. And even more advanced, anytime I introduce a new movement to the split, always stay short of failure. One, because it's new, you won't need to take it to failure for it to be a novel, effective stimulus. But at the same time, too, there absolutely is something to taking time to really go through that form again, get good control through it, make sure you own it before you start to logbook it, track it, and progress it over time. And you'll see as an added bonus, I like to do the safety squat bar. Just for the reason that it's extremely comfortable. I'm fine with this mobility, like with the bar on my back, doesn't bother me too much. Terrence, it kind of wrecks his shoulders a little bit. But for almost everyone, it's a very, very comfortable way to hold the weight. And again, if you've ever done lunges with 200 pounds plus, even if you are pretty comfortable here, at the end of 20 plus steps, it's a long time. I feel like I have to just like get the bar off of me. Now, the other reason to be considered of that safety squat bar is there's also an element of danger, because if you get stuck at the bottom, if you haven't ever got stuck at the bottom with a safety squat bar on your back, you basically just have to sit there and wait for help, or you have to go all the way down, face down on the ground and call out like an idiot, or you attempt to dump it, in which case there's no way around having those handles scrape the shit out of your back on the way down. Not that I've done all of those things at various points in time. So who doesn't love an element of danger to their training as well, too? If you don't get up from those walking lunges, you're going to get pinned to the ground like a ding-dong until someone comes and rescues you. So I always like that component there as well, too. Where an advantage of the barbell is if you get stuck at the bottom, you just dump it, and you're less likely to die that way. Just kidding. Do what's safe. Make good decisions. Make good choices. So anyway, that is leg day. From here, we will logbook things, we'll progress things, we'll improve form on things. We may or may not add volume if necessary. 2 working sets on most things seems to be great. We did 2 working sets with the bar, 20 steps, 24 steps. Again, really sub-max. We'll eventually get up to, again, 200 pounds plus on these. But for the first go, I don't really feel like pushing stuff. Did a body weight warm-up, and we'll just probably put up 50 more pounds on the bar next week, 50 more pounds after that, and then just progress it up from there. So that is leg day. This is a very solid all-around leg day. Someone for looking for overall lower body development, you are absolutely going to get your hamstrings fully worked, your quads fully worked. You're also going to pick up some adductor and quad work. Adductor and glute work. And again, if you have some little individual needs or demands past that, obviously tailor it yourself. But overall, a very good balanced leg day for everyone. So let's get after it. Let's hopefully get out there, enjoy your own leg days, and enjoy watching as we move along in the chapters leading up to Terrence taking home that victory in 2022, which is going to happen. So till the next one, guys, peace.